Victor, how did you learn Korean so fast? People ask me all the time, and they're like, after just 2 years in Korea, you can already speak Korean with native-like pronunciation, and you can see basically American Koreans commenting or just native Koreans commenting and saying that I have a native-like pronunciation, and they're like, but what's your secret? How did you do that? And that's a really good question. Well, what I want to say, first of all, I learned Korean before I came to Korea, and in this video I'm going to be telling you one of the most important frameworks of my system of mastering foreign languages. And this most important principle is that you need to learn a language before you go to the country, at least on a conversational level. So if you're planning to come to Korea, or if you're planning to go to China, or if you're planning to visit any other country for traveling or for living there or for a short-term study, for short-term stay, you need to master the language before you go there. People are like, but I will just learn the language when I'm there, and they postpone learning the language, and they kind of find the excuses not to learn it. So in this video I actually want to tell you that it's extremely important. It's one of the most important things to learn the language before you go to the country. The second thing I would like to tell you is that people who live in Korea, like foreigners who've been living in Korea for years, most of them cannot speak Korean, even on a conversational level. The same goes for foreigners who live in China. The same goes for foreigners who live in any other country, for expats who live there. The reason is that, I don't know, there are so many reasons to that, but it's one of the reasons that mastering a foreign language is very difficult, and people try to be their own dentist, like I say, their own doctor, and try to learn it by themselves and try to think. And one of the most important mistakes they have is that basically they think that just because they stay in this country, they automatically can learn the language. And when people watch my videos, they're like, yeah, it's because you live there, that's why you speak the language, and this is the reason why. It's very easy. If you live in this country, it's very easy to actually master this language because you're already in the environment. Well, the truth is much more complicated than that, because for example, when I was a foreign student in China for 3 years, I noticed that most of the foreigners, they were still hanging out with foreigners, with other foreigners. They were not hanging out with Chinese people, and that's why most of the people on the program, they couldn't master Chinese. It's because they're just speaking either their own language or English most of the time. I actually think that, like, as for Russians, I think that they actually mastered English, they learned English even more in China than Chinese, because they're just speaking English with other foreigners, which is kind of funny, because like staying in an Asian country and learning English, it's very kind of, I mean, it's very interesting. So this is a very big misconception people have, is that it takes just like, you need to live there. You need to live in this country. Once you live in this country, it's very easy to master a language. This is what people think. And they also think that, oh, other people master the language because they live there. And also the third thing that people think is that if I cannot go to this country, if I cannot like instantly go there and study there and be immersed in the language environment, it means that I cannot master language on a fluent level. These are three misconceptions people have. And I would like to give you my framework, my frame of mind, and how I think about mastering languages and just going to this country and staying in the environment. Well, first of all, of course it helps. Of course, it's the most important thing to be immersed in the environment, but you can create it superficially in the place you are in right now. So, for example, you can consume content in this language. You can find language exchange partners online and offline, so you can do that. And also, another thing is that it's actually strategically important, so that you master language at least on a conversational or basic level before you go to this country, because once you are there, you can practice it. Once you are there, you can basically, you're able to socially relate to people, you're able to conversate. So it's strategically important so that you learn the language before you go there. I haven't graduated in Korea. I haven't studied at the university here, and I lived in China before I came here. But on the first day, I started taking job interviews in Korean, which is crazy if you think about it. People are like, "How long have you been living here?" I'm like, "It's my first day," and they're like, "But how is it possible that you're taking job interviews in Korean if you haven't even graduated here? If you haven't even spent years here, how is it possible that you take job interviews in Korean?" And I was like, yeah, I learned Korean before I came here. This was my strategic move. I wasn't perfect, I wasn't completely fluent, but I was understanding almost 100% of what people said, and I could answer almost 100% of the questions. So you don't have to be perfect before you come here, but the most important thing is that you understand that you need to learn, you need to master language on a conversational level, and you don't have to spend years. You don't have to spend years on that like most people do. With the right system, with the right set of methods, with the right set of techniques, you can do it so much faster than most people do. And the reason is that you can cut the years off of your learning curve. With a straight line approach where you go from point A to point B, you can literally do it over the course of just a few months. Because it doesn't take that much. It takes just a few textbooks, a few thousand words in your word bank, and like tens of grammatical patterns. It doesn't take years to actually master this kind of knowledge. It doesn't take years to be able to conversate with people using a few hundred words. It doesn't take years. With the right system, again, with the ability to use a subconscious mind, with the ability to use your brain, you could do it much faster than that. And basically, this is what I've been helping people to do, not only with Korean and Chinese, but also with other languages. And this is what my program is based on. It's based on 17 principles. And if you're curious about those 17 principles, you can check out my my digital program. The link is down below. If you want, you can join the test group. I pretty much made it available for pretty much everyone because the price is very available. It's much cheaper than my coaching. And generally, people who enroll into my coaching, they already know about all those principles. They're already using them during their daily studies, and those principles help them to learn 10x faster than the average person. But there is no magic pill. There is no magic pill. There is no such thing as a magic pill, because still you need to put in so much work. You need to put in years of practice and constant learning in order to become native-like and fluent. When people compliment me on my pronunciation, it doesn't mean that I learned it in months. Of course, I spent years on perfecting it, and I'm still not perfect. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm still not perfect. It still takes years and years and years and years and years of practice. But the most important thing here is that you understand that you don't have to spend years to conversate with people. This is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to spend years. People are like, I've been learning the language for 5 years, but I still cannot answer basic questions. This is ridiculous. This is what I said. This is just completely ridiculous. This is what traditional system did to us. And I want you to get rid of those traditional systems mindsets and just believe that it's possible to do. If you want to check out those 17 steps that I've mentioned, click the link down below to join the test group if the spots are left. And I hope that this video was motivating for you. The most important thing is that you take action on these things that I just said. And as always, until next time.